Hello, my name is Benjamin, and I am putting together this slideshow to introduce you to a very exciting project that I am working on here at my company, Plain Space Design. If you are interested in this, I would very much like to have you give some feedback, and in particular, I would like to see you join in. This is an invitation from me, the owner of Plain Space Design, to all of you out there who are interested in using your talent and your genius to contribute to something that could very well change the world in terms of what we can do on Earth and in space. So here's how this story begins. It started somewhere in the mid 1980s when I was a young man transitioning from a professional career as a musician and then followed as a professional career as an artist. And I became inspired by a strange story that I read in the library about interspace travel, interstellar travel, and I began to wonder, well, how could that be done in reality? I mean, is it possible to use magnetic force, which was part of the description of the story, to travel in space? And I felt yes, because I love magnets, and I did a lot of work with magnets, playing with them and enjoying them as a kid, and continue to keep my interest in all things magnetic as I grew older. So I remembered that two magnets could make each other move, but in order to do that, you had to hold one in place and then let the other move away or towards it, whichever direction you choose. And then you would have to hold the other one in place and reverse the poles of one of the magnets so that the one that you held first could now move in the same direction as the first one did. And I had done this experiment many times when I was a kid. Uh, and so that immediately occurred to me as a solution when I thought about the problem. And I said to myself, well, instead of holding them, I could reversibly make one heavier than the other. And so the idea was, and it only took me just a few minutes after reading the problem to come up with a solution. Hadn't even gotten home before I figured out how I would want to do that. But now it's been decades since I've discovered this idea, come up with this idea, and I'm still battling some of the problems to make it a viable means of spaceship propulsion. And by viable, I mean that it would be efficient, it would have all of the problems solved, it would be able to do things that were of benefit to the space program. By the end of the 80s, after hacking away this problem for a few years, I realized that only an engineer or a scientist could really have the knowledge that it would require to solve all of the problems that I was encountering and making this a better idea. So in 1988, I entered a local college and began a career as a computer scientist and electrical engineer. And my primary focus, well, I was paying attention to things that was really related to solving this problem, even though I got a general education. I did not mention this or bring this forward or, or stray away from my studies in any way. It was just sort of a sideline thought in my mind that every time something important to this idea came along, I would grab it up. In the following decades, I have developed the idea. Now that I am an engineer and computer scientist, I'm being able to do research on all of the related topics, some simulations, and carry out some formal design activity. So here I am in 2016, and I am now ready to not fight this problem alone, because I know that there's got to be some geniuses out there who can maybe do better in some areas than I am doing now. What I'm about to describe now is the basis of the design. I gave you the fundamental concept in the previous slide in the introduction. But here is the basis of the design. Here is a force generator, which in my initial concept was a couple of magnets, but I generalized it to anything that can generate a reversible force that pushes things apart and pull things together. Here is an inertial fluid, and it is a fluid so that it can be moved by a means from this tankage or area to this tankage or unit or module. So it can reversibly move the inertia to the forward mass or to the aft mass. And the intent is to do this in conjunction with reversing the force generator to get everything to move in this direction, the direction of the flight vector. So here's the propulsion sequence. The fluid couples to the aft mass, so it will be here first. The force generator expands, pushing the two parts, pushing them apart. So this one, being heavier, will move less than this one, which is lighter, so it will go further forward. It will make a bigger delta V, if you want to call it a change in position. Now you transfer the inertia forward. So that means moving this fluid mass forward while everything is still relatively in the same position. Then when the fluid couples to this forward mass, this one is now heavier. So the force generator contracts. And so though they may both move, this one, the heavier one, will move less. So you will get a net motion in the direction of the flight director after the force generator contracts. Then you go back to step one, move the fluid back and couple to the aft mass, and follow the sequence over and over again. And the ideal expectation is that you would have some forward motion after several cycles in the direction of the flight vector, even though there is some laws, or as we in electrical engineering would call slip, in terms of synchronous machines. You still can get some net motion in the direction of the flight vector. At least that is the hope. So, left to its own natural behaviors, I mean, the way things are set up with the springs, mass type forces, and the general system mechanics, if it was all to happen in the way that it would happen naturally while these things are moving back and forth and forces are reversing, it would probably go nowhere. But it would require some very thoughtful and out of the box, and I would even say mind-bending engineering to make it fly. So I'm thinking that in the hands of maybe a genius out there, that this idea will fly. So this invitation is for you all to join in and become a part of what this thing can become. It's a grand adventure, and I'm opening the doors to all who think they can help. Thank you.